welcome back to the channel. So I'm no idiot. I totally understand why most of y'all are here, and if it was to see the carnage that occurred right before one lap to go, well, there you go. But now I would like to go ahead and dive into the rest of this race and talk about some of the riding that led up to that incident and talk a little bit more about how this race unfolded and then also my result in it. Before we fully dive in here, I want to express that I'm usually a super positive dude, and I've said 100 times I am no expert in bike racing. I fully acknowledge I make mistakes, some of which can be dangerous at times. So if I sound grumpy or judgmental in this video, I apologize. But good God, fellas, what on earth was happening in this race? I saw countless people shoving themselves into lanes where they just didn't belong, aggressively overlapping in corners, and then flying up inside lines, trying to maintain the absolute tightest line in extremely wet conditions, and then ending up taking out my teammates. There was just so much unnecessary crap happening in this race. But anyway, the overall point here, be better. Take these as lessons learned. Ride your bike outside, please. That's all I'm really gonna say on this subject. But now, on to the actual race. So we're back in your favorite business park right here in Southern California. This is the California Bicycle Racing Series. This is the third race of what I believe are 6 races in this series. They take place on sort of 2 separate sides, like across the street, but both courses are pretty similar overall. What makes this course a little bit unique is there's a slight uphill like kicker that leads into the start-finish straight, or at least leads into the final corner before the start-finish straight. That's probably the only defining feature here. Everything else is pretty straightforward. So today, my general idea is riding for the sprint. I'm gonna hang out, not do much. I do have 2 teammates in the field, Ansel and Zach, and Ansel is riding more to get away today. And if I see that he gets any opportunity to go off the front, I will do my part to try and insert myself in any kind of like organized chase rotation or anything like that and take care of business. But other than that, I'm on hangout duty here. I'm just gonna sit in and vibe. Maybe warm up the legs a little bit. We'll have to see what happens. But the end of this race is absolute absurdity, so I'm just gonna talk very briefly about sort of the thick of the race. It's an hour long, but all the action happens in like the last 4 laps. It's absurd. 3 crashes, all this BS. So let's jump into it. All right, we're jumping ahead here. So, you know, the race has sort of settled down a little bit. People are kind of doing their thing. A few later attacks have been flying. One thing that I've been trying to get better at here is just sitting in the group and realizing when attacks are gonna fly. You can see it from a mile away. I said, go right, as soon as I knew this was coming. And so I'm gonna follow wheels and follow accelerations when stuff like that happens. That way I can slot myself in, you know, top 10 wheels here. And oftentimes what'll happen is, you know, if I was in a situation where I was gonna be the aggressor and attack and try and get off the front or follow something or what have you, then I would wanna be in this position, because as soon as that like small group of individuals up the front gets brought back, I'm in a prime position to counter. But nonetheless, iSpeed Racing, the boys, Kyle Kilmartin comes to the front there with a couple of his guys, and they start working to tow this back. So I'm like, cool, time for me to go back on hangout duty. I don't really need to be on high alert. I don't think this is gonna go anywhere. Obviously there's motivation to change it, but now I see, you know, my 2 teammates are also flying up the right and everybody's accelerating, but I'm perfectly fine with sitting mid-pack here and taking a nap. All right, so another thing I sort of want to comment on that I've kind of been up to lately is just making sure that I'm always racing my bike forward. So in this race in particular, it seemed like a lot of people had no interest in like following accelerations like that one, for example, and then taking this ride to the front. And of course, maybe I did a little bit more effort than I needed to, and I probably should have maintained that wheel a little better coming through this corner. But it's just one of those situations where I'm coming into this hill, I know it's gonna slow up, I can accelerate and get back on the wheel here. It's just like, it doesn't make sense to me that you wouldn't just roll with these trains as they go. And I understand you might be comfortable sitting in, you know, your position mid-pack, but go with the constant flow of the peloton. And if that means you need to move forward, even if it spits you out onto the front, just pedal tempo for a second and somebody is going to take over. Of course, you're a little more vulnerable to attacks there, but that's why you're not going so hard that you're like blasting yourself, so that if somebody does come around you, it's like, oh crap, I can't respond. But now I'm in a great position, man. I just moved up. Now the right side is moving up. I'm immediately waiting to watch the left side also move up, and then I'm probably going to try and follow that acceleration up so I maintain good position in the peloton. Good position allows you opportunities like this one. So I'm looking around, I see everybody's kind of doing the tempo thing on the front. Subaru is sort of slowing things down and controlling. I start to accelerate there and nobody immediately responds, so I'm like, all right, cool, we're gonna send it. I know I can take the corner much faster than everybody has been taking pretty much all day, and Lee is up the road with Team 6. I know he's gonna work with me if I get up there and bridge across to him, so I do a pretty good effort here to get across to him. Start that out at like 600 watts to get that little bit of separation. Get almost half a straightaway pretty much immediately. And then I jump across and I'm closing in on Lee. I'm like, all right, man, let's do the thing. But I do look back just really quickly once we come out of this corner. One thing I've learned is like I gotta commit until I at least get to the rider, and then, you know, once I get across and make the bridge, I can kind of start to assess the situation, see if it's something I want to ride or not. But we're hammering up the hill, and you know, 500 watts is what it's costing me. It wasn't the craziest bridge I've ever done. It wasn't the longest bridge I've ever done, but it was indeed a bridge. Now, one more rider comes across, and I take this moment to sort of check back under my shoulder. I realize iSpeed's on the front. You know, Matt Rios, a couple other guys are chasing pretty aggressively behind that, so you know, it's not something that's gonna stick. I'm just like, all right, time to go back and reassume my position, which is nap time. Okay, waking up from my nap. We're coming into, well, this is already 4 to go, and now is the time when I'm really focused on finding my teammates. So if we want to get the slightest bit organized here, it's time to do it. Coming into 3 to go, there's really no other option now than to be around my guys, and that's especially true if they are going to be the ones that are going to allow me to maintain a good position in the peloton. So I come up behind Zach and Ansel here, and I scream at Zach that I'm on his wheel. He takes over and gets in front of Ansel here, and basically his job right now coming into 3 to go is just to maintain a decent position. The field is 80 guys deep, so realistically we don't need to be too far forward just yet, but we also don't want to get swarmed. So we're not on the nose. We're trying to just maintain our position here. I just need to stay out of the wind. Ansel gets a little spooked there, so I let him come back in right here. I'm like, slot back in, man. So now that kind of puts us in a weird situation here, though, because we lost Zach's wheel. And Zach is where realistically I want to be at this point, especially knowing that we have 2.5 laps left in this race. So it's at this point, though, that I realize Zach is kind of getting swallowed up, and I'm probably going to have to make some executive decisions here and just take the lines I can and get myself in position. So Ansel is now behind me. That's fine, and I'm thinking that maybe he can take over with like 1 lap to go and then jump in front of me and give me that lead out I need. But nonetheless, lost some positions there. Chris in front of me, I think, was just doing a lot of work on the front or just got brought back, so he's kind of moving backwards there. And so just a lot happening in here. And at this point, if you're losing position and you're going backwards, like, your race is lost. So the last thing I want to do is allow that to happen. I see, you know, some of the guys that I have my eye on in this race are sitting on my right. My boy Wyatt, who I know is going to be involved in this finish, man is flying right now. With Team 6, he's sitting right in front of me, and I'm like, dude, that's a good wheel. I'm gonna grab it and just try and stick it out and maintain my position. So I'm gonna keep pushing forward every chance I get. You can see things are getting dicey already, and that's gonna lead to some wild behavior, and some wild stuff is gonna happen coming into this 1 to go. So Wyatt accelerates. You can see these other guys are accelerating. Things are getting tight, but I'm feeling good about my position. I kind of like this weird bubble position because I can sort of read which side of the peloton is gonna accelerate, whether that's the inside right side line or the left side line. and I see Kyle with ice speed going to the front. I see ice speed's getting organized on the front. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make something happen here. And so I'm pushing, getting in position, getting excited here, because I'm like, all right, man, we're sitting like pretty prime, honestly. I'm yelling up at people because they need to pedal harder. But anyway, I realize I'm like, man, all right, like sitting in a good spot here, maybe a little deep, but this is plenty of time coming into one to go. But as we round this corner and I continue to push up, boom, crash happens in front of me. I'm like, oh my God. So luckily, I was able to unclip, slam my brakes, lean all the way back, swerve left, and do like the craziest maneuver I've ever seen out of myself. I saw it back third party from the Bros Ride Bikes cam, and I was like, good Lord. Just as a note, I do think most everyone that got involved in that accident is okay. There were definitely some broken bikes, mangled bikes and whatever, but you know, it is what it is. It's part of bike racing. It sucks. At that point, I was like, all right, my race is over. But I come around the corner, and turns out we were doing a neutral restart. So we're stopping the race, and we're going to resume. And this is where things get kind of wonky. The USAC officials decided that they were going to give us a neutral restart. We had one rider off the front. That was Tommy Fang with Team 6. And he had, I think, like a 5-second gap, maybe 10 seconds or something, coming into one to go. Do I think that would have stuck? Who knows? The man was going hard. Props to him for sending it and sending the solo flyer. But nonetheless, this gets kind of weird. So the officials decided to start us with 3 laps to go. I don't know if I agree or disagree. I definitely don't agree with like just starting and having 1 lap to go, because obviously I don't know how to clip in. So realistically, this is like a really weird situation that we're in at this point, and I don't know what the right move is there. I personally thought a moto pace neutral lap to allow people to jockey for position and then come into one to go and the moto pulls off type thing, almost Kieran style. I thought that might have been the best answer, but basically we're starting all over here with 3 laps to go, and I've got to figure out how to get myself in position. So at this point, I need to ride pretty freaking aggressively for the next, you know, 2.5 laps already to get myself in a situation where I can maybe win the race. And that's really hard to do, especially on cold legs. We sat there for, I don't know, 6-7 minutes or something like that. But nonetheless, there are some slowdowns here, which allow me to slide up and put myself in position. And let's see how the last, you know, 3/4 of a lap shake out. Coming into one to go now, I've managed to get myself in what I think is a pretty darn good position. So you can see Jack with Bros Ride Bikes is on the front. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, 6 or 7 other riders behind him. And I'm sitting on Wyatt's wheel here. I'm thinking that this location is pretty good. You can see Yogi with the leader's jersey on is sitting right next to me. The I-Speed train is sort of pushing to the front to kind of get organized here, and people are starting to accelerate. So coming into one to go, man, this is where I want to be. I just want to always be moving forward from here on out. And so I'm doing just that. I think I'm doing a pretty good job. My biggest gripe with myself in this situation is I probably wanted to be on the inside line just because it is faster. It's a faster way around, and I think that it's also sheltered from the wind on the uphill right before we come into the finish. But you know, it's working out nicely because I'm following Wyatt here, and I'm like, all right, this is going to be like a perfect setup. But the I-Speed train is sort of dying here. Wyatt accelerates. I'm already doing 750 watts, and now I'm kind of stuck in the wind, but I don't want to like accidentally force myself too far forward. So Subaru's coming up, some Velosport kids are pushing up, everybody's kind of doing the thing, but I know it's going to be hot from basically now on. And so I immediately start stomping, and funny enough, the race winner is the Subaru guy on my left that just gapped the crap out of me. Wyatt, right there, sits down, takes a corner, and I decide that I'm going to sit down, and I get pushed wide by, I think this is the Couch to Crit dude from Jeff's protege or something. But he kind of slows down coming in that corner, and, you know, if you're slowing down in the last corner, man, it's game over. You're not going to win the race. So I basically went from Wyatt's wheel, like 6 bike lengths in front of where I was at, to 14th place out of about 80. just a couple minor mistakes there. Obviously, that one's on me. When I saw these other riders on the inside slowing down, I should have maintained my momentum on the outside and just stomped a few more pedals, and maybe that would have been a better result. Of course, your result is always what your result is. Could have done better, could have done worse, who knows, but what you got's what you got. Like I said, guys, I always, love to hear your feedback and what you think I could have done better in the race, especially you more experienced folks. So if you've got any of that feedback, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. If you want to see some more race analysis, you want to see us absolutely tear it up at places like Valley of the Sun, and you want to see races coming soon, then watch these other videos I'll pop on the screen right now. All right, guys, thanks. I will see you again soon.